Recording in progress. Okay, so let me get started and I'll bring up my slides. Thanks again for your time getting in and participating in this. So here we are. Color theory. Color theory part one. All right, let me get my notes sorted. And we'll begin. So yeah, thank you again for helping out and joining me for this color theory session. So I'm first going to start with a bit of an agenda. So what we're going to cover over the next 10 minutes. So I'm going to go into a little bit of housekeeping, just some small little things. We're going to talk about the outcomes, a little bit of an introduction of the color wheel, some basics, and then the key body of this will be covering color harmony. So some schemes, some color things that are going to be useful going forward, conversations that we can use within UI and UX. We'll do a little exercise and a little bit of a wrap up. So first, little housekeeping, and I want to make sure that you're in a comfortable environment, posture, ergonomics, make sure, even though this is a 10 minutes lesson, I'm using a framework to make sure that students are aware of if we're going to be sitting for a long time, in later lessons, supporting you. So as I mentioned before, video is recorded. This is for educational purposes and will not be distributed. It's a 10-minute lesson plan, and I'm happy to open up with lots of questions, even though this is 10 minutes, but I'd love to capture any questions that you have that I can further capture and we can discuss. So please put that in the Zoom chat. And then just a reminder that the feedback form, which I provided earlier, to provide that feedback afterwards. So let's get into the goal of what we're looking for today, and that is I want you to quickly identify some of the basics of the color wheel, and more and evenly importantly, some of the principles of color harmony and some color schemes related to your industry. So first, I'm going to put this out there. Why is color important? Why is it important to you? Why, or just that open-ended question, why do you think color is important?
I did design in the uni, and I remember talking about this because, for example, I know the color, the red brings us to like the hungry. So Kit Kat, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, many other brands are using the color red for this purpose. Like they bring us, I don't know the feeling, but I understand the feeling when I see the red, so it makes sense, but I don't know how can I explain this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it can connect to an emotion, right? So we naturally use color that's connected to emotion. So color can sway our thinking, right? It could change our actions, and it can cause reactions. So, color can irritate your eyes if it's too strong. It can raise your blood pressure. If you've ever been in a room and that bright color or their color can raise your blood pressure. It can suppress your appetite, right? So when used in the right ways, it's very powerful. And so powerful form of communication, the red for stop, yellow, cautious, green. So we associate colors in certain context. And so it's important. So we look at universal messages like this. Colors can be used on products and websites, and a powerful reaction as you have to just individual colors can define your brand, for example, that you're mentioning. So color can also define an era, like what's sometimes called a zeitgeist, right? So we think of some colors of the 70s, what colors do you think of? And the colors of the 80s, we think of neon and bright colors. So colors are really important in a larger context of how we perceive it. And perception changes. So it's interesting. Here's an article, the pink and blue conversation. In 1918, so an article from a trade publication, it was Earnshaw's infant department. He sort of declared that since pink was derived, like pink, so is derived from red, pink is for the boys, and blue for the girls. So the reason is that pink being it was decided as the stronger color, is more suitable for boys, while blue, which is more delicate and dainty, is preferred for the girls. It's interesting how color perception changes. So marketers have swapped that and how it's come about. So it's interesting. I just thought I'd put that in there. So
Yeah.
the color wheel. So this is something that you would have done at a very early age. But just as a context, 3 primary examples, they're primary colors. We then go into secondary colors. So 3 primaries, 3 secondary, 6 tertiary. And so we fan out all those other colors in between: yellow, orange, red, orange, blue, purple. But we need to, just as context, the color wheel starts at those 3 colors, and we add to create the more colors around it. We can also divide the color wheel into warm and cool. So warm colors generally associated with energy, bright, the brightness and the action, whereas cool colors are often identified with calm and peacefulness and serenity. So when dealing or talking about the product or service that you're going to go into, one of the key questions is, what is the emotion, the feeling you want to tie to it? We can also add a tint, tone, and shade of a color. So this diagram, I think, really closely shows if we add shade, which is black, we're really dulling, as well as gray. Black and gray really dull the colors, they mute them. If you add a tint, which is white, it often softens the color. It sort of brings it to a little bit more feminine, a little bit softer. And the key to color within UI and UX is to create harmony. And so we look at harmony. What do you think I mean by harmony here? What is meant by harmony in color?
I guess it's matching colors that if you're trying to catch an emotion with that color, you need to find something that supports it, like going to be the base to make the main color like calling more attention, or I know.
Well, yeah, I understand. So there's contrast there, but like, is it pleasing, right? Is there a sense of balance, right?
Yeah, balance.
An inner sense, an inner sense of order. We naturally do this with our eyes. We go, oh, that doesn't look quite right, or that looks beautiful. Why is it beautiful? Because there's a sense of visual balance and a visual experience that we need to talk about. So 3 color schemes, harmonies that are used 3 that are used commonly in UI and UX are monochromatic, analogous, and complementary, and beside that is split complementary. So I put those in the same bucket. So these are 3 examples we can use as strategies to apply in UI and UX. And so we'll go through those examples. So here is an example of monochromatic. So as the word mono, insinuates, it's one color. So it's one color and the tint, tones, and shades of that color. And the reason why monochromatic color is used very often is that it provides a strong sense of visual cohesiveness, right? So they all belong to each other. The product belongs to the same, order, right? So onboarding a project, you'll often see they use monochromatic colors. Of course, there's always no rules. You can add extra colors for contrast, but it's used quite a lot. So the next one is analogous. And analogous colors work well due to their representation of the color palette that's regularly occurred in nature. So here you can see example of a leaf, the bottom left-hand corner, a rose in the middle. So when you look at a color and you look at something in nature, you'll see that these colors, they're not all green, right? There's blues, there's that spectrum. So analogous, if we look at the color palette here, you can see that these forms, they're beside each other, right? So analogous looks at a color palette and on the color wheel where the colors are arranged next to each other. So you can see, and we'll get into this tool shortly. So pairing these colors really work well because it's a natural, it's natural balance, it's natural harmony.
Mhm.
In complementary and split complementary, so when I mean complementary, what do I mean here, looking at these examples?
The opposite side colors?
Right, the opposite side of the color spectrum. So you can see here, green and red being the complementary, purple, yellow. Now this extra third one is called the split complementary. So complementary just means the opposite side of the spectrum, really used for really strong contrast, bold contrast, and a lot of this is used within brands to create that striking contrast. The split complementary comes in when you pick a color that is next to one of the other colors. So here, for example, the purple and the yellow and this pinkish color off to the yellow warm spectrum. So purple being more in the cool, yellow and the red pinkish hue. So split, this example is showing complementary and split complementary all at once. So these three color schemes, well, split complementary can be the fourth, but are three strong examples. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you, I'll first share exactly what tool we're using. So it's called Adobe Color. If you want to type in Adobe Color, I'll stop sharing my screen and I will jump into the Adobe Color. Okay, so I'll just share my screen again here. Let's go. So I'm going to navigate to this website here. And I'll have you go through this as well. So down the left-hand side, you'll see some of the harmony schemes and rules, and there's many more, but we're only talking about some of the top ones used. So analogous is the default. And so when I jump on, you can see this little arrow. This is the main central color that I can control. So if I actually move and rotate around, you can see that the colors connect with each other, right? So they're the colors to the left and the right of that orange. So if I snap to monochromatic, you can see they're all in a line. And so as I grab this tool, I can create a monochromatic color palette. Like you can keep these in order. So I can go, yep, I like this color, I like this color, and I like these three colors. So I have, sort of an order from left to right. And you can, I think what I'll do is I'll stop sharing this and I'll have you share your screen of the Adobe Color palette. And I'd like you to actually go through the analogous, the monochromatic, the complementary, and the split complementary. And just to, yes?
Let me share this screen because I cannot share.
Sure. Are you sharing your screen? Sorry.
No. I need you to able to share my screen because.
Sorry. Yes. All right. Hello. I will make you the host, and then you can share your screen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Here, can you see?
Yes. So here, here's your analogous. So explore analogous and pick a color palette that you'd like, that's suiting you. What analogous color would you choose, or pattern?
I have some kind of difficult to understand, like if it is for my personal brand, to understand
Yeah,
which color
in this context, I think what I'm trying to do is just to help you identify the difference between analogous and monochromatic. Okay. That'll be for, I think, for our later conversation when we talk about your brands and talk about what personality you'd like to put forward.
Okay, so this is analogous.
Yep, this is analogous. So monochromatic.
So I can play with this or the order, right?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, click on Triad. Have a look at Triad. Even though we didn't cover it, but you can see now that triangular based color palettes. All right.
That is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not like a right or wrong. All the color.
No, absolutely not. There's no right or wrong.
So, for example, if I random come here, yep, and I use this palette here.
Yes.
That is harmonic. That is like it has the balance.
That's and you can tweak. So if you look below, you have your hex numbers, right? You also have your RGB, so red, green, and blue, which is the digital color palette. And then you also have your brightness. So within each, you can customize each of those colors. You can also just choose 3. You don't have to use 5. Okay. So that's complementary. And then you can see here with that split complementary. So it has the blue, right, and the orange complementary, and then that split to add that extra little color on the side, which works really well.
And if I click on the brown, it's gonna give me, if I click on the dark color, it's gonna make like darker, like shade the. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that arrow in the middle is your key color. And so you can do you can look at some of and the reasons why, we choose monochromatic is because it's simple, right? It's the tint, tones, and shade, and it has that harmony. It has a simple way to bring a visual cohesiveness together. Right.
When should I use this? And maybe it's not for now, this moment, but.
Yeah, and we can talk further about, your brand and the perception of, and that personality that you want to put forward. And we use color for a certain reason. So for example, red is energetic. It can put forward authority. So is that part of your personality, right? Or is it more of a calming color, right? You have to first define the emotion, the personality first, and then use color to relate it to those emotions.
But for the brands, for your clients, do you have like rules? Like if you're talking about supermarket, you're gonna use analogs. If you're talking about food, you're gonna talk. If you're saying about shoes, I don't know.
Yeah, and the brand psychology is something that I go into in part 2, and so I'm happy to share with that as well. So Cindy will be doing more brand psychology, and I'll record that, and you'll have access to that as well. So we talk a little bit more of that perception of color, how it's used. So when we use certain colors to perceive like a higher end brand with some of the lower end brands, color is associated with it. So if you could change me back to the host, please, I'll just wrap up.
How can I change you back for the role?
So if you hit the top right hand corner with those 3 blue dots on the image, like if you go to my video, click on, and then just make host.
Make host, yeah.
Okay. Now I'm just gonna jump back to so that little exercise was to get you to understand a little bit about those color harmony and schemes. And so in this slide presentation, I quickly went over the color scheme of primaries, secondaries, and tertiaries to give context. Warm versus cool colors, again, the understanding of how they're used, and the key sort of harmony that can be achieved in monochromatic, analogous, and complementary color palettes. So that concludes the first little introduction to color harmony. And yeah, did you just want to follow up just with some questions then?
Actually, I'm gonna tell you my feeling that I want more. I could spend like hours
Yes.
listening you talking about this. So I have the feeling that why is it too quick? I want more.
I totally understand. Like, it was really difficult for me as an instructor to put this into context of only 10 minutes. And so I do a series. So I'm doing another 10 minutes, I'm doing a 30 minutes and 2 45s, all of which will have context of color in some regard. So I'm happy to record and share as much of this as possible with you.
I'm subscribing all. Part of the part 2 of the color scheme, I'm in all of the rest.
Yeah. No, that's fine. No, thank you. And yeah, put any more in the chat. I can ask any more questions, or happy to answer any more questions. So just gonna pause and stop